This student says, just wanted to let you know with the help of your videos and your awesome tips and tricks, my wife has scored even better than me. Her scores are listening 11, reading 12, speaking 10, writing 10. These are the kinds of scores we want you to get, and today we will discuss exactly how you can get this done in speaking. The best way to understand what to do in speaking is understanding the speaking marking criteria. This is from the official CELPIP website. Now, we are looking at a score of 12. That's what we want to target. And there's a lot of things that are explained here, and I want to go in detail today with this marking criteria. But not only that, I want to really explain with examples what each of these things mean. Because when you look at the marking criteria, it might be a little vague or without examples. So we'll break it down with every content and examples and meaning. This is what you need to do to score a high CLB in CELPIP speaking. So what does this mean? Content and coherence. It says you want to communicate with a full range of purposes and have complex, clear, and precise descriptions. First of all, let's clarify what that means in one simple sentence. It means this section will evaluate how well you express a wide variety of ideas clearly, logically, and in detail during complex and non-routine situations. Once again, it's a little bit clearer than that, but we'll break it down to make it even more simple. The idea, though, is you should not use the same sentences or repetitions or simple sentences. Use a variety, and I'll show you how in a second. Examples of what this means in your speaking is clearly explain your reasoning when giving advice, not just your opinion. That goes with everything. Whenever you say a sentence or you give a logic or an opinion, always explain why or how. Even if it's simple, even if you say something like the food was delicious, explain why. Well, because it had this tangy flavor and it had my favorite spices such as the garlic and ginger spices in it, which I love. Something like that even has to be explained. Use specific and advanced vocabulary wherever you can when describing a problem or telling a story, or in any case, always try to use advanced vocab. Use words that are unique. If instead of something like harmful, you could use detrimental. Instead of and, you could use accordingly. And we'll look at some examples in a sec. Organize your response with a clear beginning, middle, and end that fully answers your question. This is very important. In every CELPIP speaking question, you need an intro, the detail in between, and the conclusion. And in the questions where you're talking to a person, you need the starting greeting and the ending greeting, which would be hello, hi, what's up, if it's informal. If it's formal, depending on the situation, hi boss, how are you doing today? And similarly, you want to finish up based on the question's prompt, naturally, however you would finish up with the greeting with the person, but have those elements in there. Let's look at an example. So here, if I say, in my opinion, investing in electric buses not only reduces long-term fuel costs, but also significantly lowers the city's carbon footprint. Let's stop here. So we can see in this example, if I'm giving a sentence, I'm giving my opinion and not just saying, we should invest in electrical buses, but giving the process. This is what happens. If you have buses, it does this and it does this. And now here is your conclusion, which aligns with our sustainability goals for the next decade. So you don't need to do this in every sentence, but your thinking should be in this manner. Once you're doing a 60-second answer or a 90-second answer, if you have multiple points, each point should have a starting, in between, and an ending. The ending shows the result. And if it's just one point throughout the whole speaking, it should still follow the same manner. Starting, detail in the middle, which is the whole process, why and how, and the ending, which is the result or the effect. And this exactly shows you the purpose, persuasion, with complex, clear, and precise details. Details are your marks for task response in CELPIP. Make sure to get them. Your next marks are going to be here in vocabulary, which really confuses people. So it says a broad range and broad range. So what exactly is that? Well, it measures your ability to use a wide variety of vocabulary, including both specific and abstract words, as well as idiomatic and expressive phrases. Now, this is a little troublesome because we don't always use them. We'll look at an example, and I'll tell you how much you should worry about this. Now, it says use precise and advanced words instead of basic ones. So here you can see some examples like frustrated instead of mad. This is what I touched on earlier too. Use more advanced vocab. Include abstract language to express ideas or emotions. For example, use freely, uncertainty, or confident. Why are they all different? Freely is an adverb, uncertainty is a noun, confident is an adjective. And that is your range of different expressions, parts of speech. That's what you need to use to define everything that you are talking about. At the end, it says use idioms or figures of speech naturally, and these are things like a blessing in disguise, go the extra mile. Now, we have a list of those. You can get it in our course. You can even search it online. You have idiomatic expressions, but how do you really place them in, and how much do you need? Because it's hard to do that. Let's look at a sentence example. Although the project was a real uphill battle, I remained optimistic, knowing that perseverance would eventually bear fruit. So, let's talk about a few things. One is it starts with although, which makes it a complex sentence. Although this, I remained this. It's two parts. It's a complex sentence. It's broken into two clauses. That's your mark for complexity, and later, of course, you would do simple sentences here and there, so that already adds a variety. Now, a real uphill battle and bear fruit, it's not really like we're eating fruit or going uphill, right? These are expressions, and the more you use them, the better. In this sentence, I've used them twice. You don't need to now overdo this in the rest of this speaking task. Now I'll try to use something in another speaking question. But those kinds of things like piece of cake, dodge the bullet, use them where you can naturally, and it takes time to learn these. If your exam is soon, don't worry about it too much. Try your best, but if you have time, try to watch Canadian TV shows. Try to learn from our courses idiomatic expressions. It's included in the description. It's more of getting used to it naturally and applying it where it can be applied. A few more things here. Optimistic. It's, again, with perseverance. These are things that are advanced words, and this is optimistic would be an adjective, or she was up. Yeah, adjective here. Perseverance would be a noun. So once again, you have lots of different parts of speech here. That gives you a good variety. Great. Let's look at our next part. This is kind of easy to understand. Listenability. Okay, very good control, very broad range, and you should be intelligibly speaking with fluent rhythm and pronunciation. What that means is this section will evaluate how clearly, fluently, and smoothly you speak using a wide variety of grammar and natural pronunciation. Simple, right? You just need to speak clear and use a variety of expressions. So here you want to use advanced structures in grammar, such as passive voice. Okay, so I really emphasize that to people. A lot of you just use active voice, so try using passive too. You want to give a mixture. Conditionals like if this happened, if this were to happen, then this would be the result. Although I cannot do this, I can do this. So it's a condition. And relative clauses are things like which, that, or where. So I went to a place where I found cheap goods. That mixture with all of these combined throughout your speaking answers gives you what is called a grammatical range and structure. Speak with smooth rhythm and natural pauses. Always be natural. This is probably the number one mistake that people make. They're not natural. They're too robotic. And pronounce words clearly and with appropriate intonation to show emotion. When you are speaking in CELPIP speaking, just make extra effort to open your mouth wider whenever you speak, so it's more clear. And also be louder than normal, but not too loud, because if you're too loud, the invigilator might stop you. But loud enough so the mic can clearly hear you. Let's look at an example here. Had I known about the delays in advance? So this is like, had I known, it's a condition. Like if I had known this, then I would have taken an earlier train. So that's two clauses, already a complex sentence. Now we're going to add a third one. And you can do this carefully if you can. Not every sentence needs to be 3 clauses, can be also 2. But here, this is a relative clause because now I'm giving even more detail, so all of this, which could have saved me hours. So it's a perfect structure with multiple layers in it. Now remember, don't stress about this. You don't need to have every sentence this good. You need actually a combination. These kinds of sentences, throw that in, but also throw in the simple ones. So you have your wide range and variety. Okay, let's look at our final thing. Task fulfillment. Adapt my language, the situation, my desired purpose and relationships. Precisely communicate my ideas to others. So this is basically be appropriate to the situation. And this costs marks. So let's understand what this means. This measures how well you adjust your tone, language, and message based on the situation, your purpose, and the person you are talking to. It's simple. If you're talking to informal people or formal people, adjust the tone accordingly. By tone, we not only mean the words and phrases. For example, when you're talking to a friend, you would say, "What's up? It's awesome. It's terrific." With a boss, it's going to be different. It's productive, it's efficient. That's the language I would use with the boss. So we're not only talking about those words, we're also talking about the tone. You would be more professional with the boss, with your volume. I believe this is going to be highly productive for our company. That's my professional tone. With my friend, I'm going to be like, you got to do this, man. This is going to be awesome. The volume, the expressions will change as well as the content. So be careful with both. Focus on your purpose, whether you're requesting, suggesting, complaining, or being apologetic. So if I'm complaining, I'm going to sound a little annoyed. If I am inviting someone to a birthday party, I'm going to sound excited. Okay, share your ideas clearly and directly, avoiding confusion or going off topic. So task response marks are actually lost a lot here, going off topic. People usually ramble, and it's okay if you do it for a few seconds, but if you go off topic for 20 seconds out of 60, you're losing a lot of marks. This usually happens in the intro. So if the topic is, let's say, part 7 speaking, do you think we should fund or we should provide more funding to the police? And I start off with my opinion. In my opinion, this is a very controversial topic, and I think a lot of people have talked about this, and there's so many opinions on this, and you go on, and then you say, in my opinion, yeah, we should fund the police more. Here, you have wasted a lot of time rambling. You can do it for a few seconds, like it is a highly controversial topic. In my opinion, we should fund the police. So now get back to the point after a little ramble. Avoid always going off topic. It's a key mistake. Now that's it, guys. I don't have a sentence example for this one because this is task fulfillment. It depends on the situation, on the question. Now combine this skill with everything else you've learned today in the CELPIP examination speaking marking criteria. When you are practicing at home, record yourself, listen to yourself, and evaluate yourself against all these marking criteria. You can replay this video whenever you are self-evaluating again to see if you're accurately hitting everything. And that's your guide towards scoring a high CLB. Guys, please like, share, and subscribe. We'll talk very soon.